And welcome back to the Hot Lab. And Adrian Newey has come out and said he's concerned for 2026. And if Adrian Newey is concerned, well then I guess we're a bit concerned. So let's get into the initial article. Here it is on planetf1.com. Adrian Newey reveals a major F1 2026 fear as power unit identified. So Newey believes that the change in regulations could result in Formula 1 being dictated by its engine formula. Now, we've got the shake-up in regulations, as you probably well know, for 2026. The engines are being different. They're relying more on the hybrid power. And for the first time in Formula 1, new regulations have been formed around the engine regulations to shake up the upcoming next season. I wouldn't say it's the first time, though. 2013, 2014, V8s to V6 hybrids. But anyway, the V6 architecture is going to remain in place. The MGU-H has been removed. Yeah, boring stuff. But while the focus on increased electrification, that's a big word, isn't it? And the introduction of synthetic fuels promises a whole new engineering challenge. Now, the internal combustion engines, sometimes referred to as ICE, internal combustion engines, it's going to see a reduction in their power by about a third, while the electrical part of the engine, the hybridy part, is going to be tripled. This means that the peak performance of the power units will be higher than the current ones, but won't be achievable for as long. As a result of the different power curves, the chassis regulations have been written, kind of like designed around this power unit, meaning a different design due to different cars producing too much drag. That's slowing cars down in the straight line to be able to optimize these power units. It's all very technical, as you can see, but the incoming regulations do present some concerns for the teams, particularly if an engine manufacturer figures out the new rules much better, essentially, than its rivals. Now, when did that last happen? Well, 2014, where we began almost not quite a decade, but a fairly lengthy time of Mercedes dominance and Lewis Hamilton dominance minus 2016. And one prominent name to voice his concern, as you can see in the thumbnail, is none other than Adrian Newey. He said, I think there has to be a big chance that it's an engine formula at the start. He said the reality is, I can't remember another time in Formula 1 when both the chassis regulations and the engine regulations have changed simultaneously, and where in this case the chassis regulations have been very much written to try to compensate for the power unit regulations. So it's an extra dimension. Now, the devil's advocate could say Adrian Newey is all about the design of the car, not the engine. He's just moaning because he can't change. He can't do as much. For example, he did moan about, had concerns, let's say, about the 2014 and the fact that the Mercedes engine was dominant. It was very much an engine formula to begin with, to the point where the rumours were that he did indeed lose interest at Red Bull and looked at other projects in Red Bull and almost took a step away from designing the car, although he was present, let's say. He began his, and it even says here, look, I've kind of predicted it. Newey, during his tenure at Red Bull, he was left vexed, interesting word, that his otherwise competitive car designs were hamstrung by an underpowered Renault engine between 2014 and 18, and believes all the engine manufacturers will be wary of the scenario of decreased competition due to one car being ahead of the rest. Now, the problem as he sees it is going to be particularly pertinent if the advantage is linked to this internal combustion engine at the very core. He said, I think engine manufacturers will have learned to an extent from the lack of preparation that the rivals to Mercedes did prior to that change. But there has to be a chance for one manufacturer will come out well on top and it'll become another power unit dominated regulation, at least to start with. Yes, it may well be, but the slight difference is here. In 2014, we didn't have engine parity. Now, what do you mean? Not parity across all the engines, but in 2014, Mercedes, their engines, they knew their engines better, and you could make an argument their engine was slightly different, or they knew it better, and they had special modes, for example, that the other Mercedes engines in the McLaren, for example, or the Williams, or at the time the Lotus, didn't necessarily have access to. And then rules were made later on in that regulation, said that all the engines have to have parity and the same modes. Party mode was cancelled, for example, by Mercedes. But they used party mode in qualifying, giving that in the engines an extra boost. Obviously, you couldn't do that during the race. The boost was so much that the engine obviously has to last a few races, it would not. But then that's where the parity is. So say, for example, we have a dominant Mercedes engine, but that would mean, for example, Williams, Mercedes and McLaren could be the three dominant teams fighting it out for the championship, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Better than at least there's the 2014 scenario, because they'll all have the same engines. The caveat, though, being, or the big but being, that Mercedes designed their car around the engines. McLaren and Williams don't. Having said that, McLaren, despite not being the works Mercedes team, are the Constructors' champions. So Newey went on to say, and there's a chance that if it's on the combustion engine side of it, that somebody comes up with a dominant combustion engine that will last through the length of the formula, because of the way the regulations are written. It's quite difficult for people who are behind to catch up. If it's up on the electrical side, then there's much more ability to catch up if you're behind. Yes, but Red Bull caught up in 2021 because of regulations that hampered Mercedes. And funny enough, they were aerodynamic regulations in respect of the rake of the car. And that really helped Red Bull. And obviously, even race fans are reporting that believes next year's rule change could allow one team to dominate the way Mercedes did after 2014. I don't think, even if they get the engine right, as I just suggested with this engine parity rule, that one team will not completely dominate like Mercedes did in 2014. But I don't know what Adrian Newey's moaning about, though. I mean, Red Bull dominated, the second half of 22 and all of 23. I mean, you just need to say here, the unprecedented. It was even in the House of Commons, wasn't it? Greg Smith, sometimes there's a sporting achievement that cannot go without comment, said Greg Smith, in the House of Commons. This was shortly after the 2023 season. Over the last year, he said Red Bull smashed through every record in the Formula 1 season, winning 21 of the 22 races. And that magic can only happen on track because of the incredible British business based up the road from my constituency of Milton Keynes, of innovation, excellence, skills and engineering superiority. So will my right honourable friend join me in congratulating Christian Horner and the whole team Red Bull on their success this year? And more than that, we have a debate on the value of motorsport and the skills they have to the wider economy. Well said. And if you want to go about talking about not necessarily engines as well, but engines and new regulations, 1997 to 1998, there were big regulation changes, not engine regulations though, but aerodynamics. For example, you went from wide 97 cars to narrow track 98 cars with grooves in them. And look at this. This is the Australian Grand Prix where Coulthard, it was McLaren 1-2, Coulthard finished 7/10 behind Mika Häkkinen after letting him win, after Häkkinen went into the, did a whoops-a-daisy pit stop, went through the pits, didn't mean to. To be fair, both McLaren drivers had an agreement whoever's first at the first corner would win. Häkkinen was first, but then he messed up. But then Coulthard stuck to that gentleman's agreement and let Häkkinen by. That's a talk for another day. But the thing I wanted to see you, new regulations again, one lap. One lap from third. One lap. Both of them dominated by that. They were seconds quicker than anyone else at the Australian Grand Prix. So it does show that when there's a new regulation changes, normally one team gets it more than the other. We're a bit lucky in 2022 because that Ferrari got it at the beginning as well. They had a very good car, at times arguably a better car than the Red Bull team. Then they just squandered it away for that second half of the season. So concerns out the window, maybe. But if you made it to the end, I just want to say thank you very much. Just clicking on this is more, it makes me more than happy anyway. But if you would like to do that bit extra, there's wonderful Adrian. If you want to do that bit extra, please give us a subscribe. If you are not, hit that notification button so you do not miss a video. If you've already done that and you want to do a bit more, click the like button or comment below. Let us know what you think. Thank you very much. Stay safe and we'll speak to you soon.